I was supposed to let Travis Cossack know which feed we were watching because he was going to
Jim, is your wife back to work?
On Thursday, she will be.
Oh, so she's just starting back this week. Oh, lucky
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Right when we're probably going to hit
Get
15%.
set. It's the Project Ion Podcast with Kevin, Andy, Jim, and Kyle, bringing you opinions on life from a basement in Northwest Iowa.
Oh, come on.
I really don't think that a president can do much about that issue.
You are fake news.
Well, let's say it's a guy named Seats.
I bet you scary. Man, this shit whack, man. I'm gonna do a scam.
I want to save him until he goes through puberty.
I mean, when you're working off headphones or what, you can never get like the bass response quite right and everything. So, okay.
Project Ion Podcast Decision 2020.
The most important election ever
Unprecedented.
in the history of elections. Cole Beardsley, how are you doing?
I'm well, yourself?
Doing fine, thank you. Andy Spurgeon, of course.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm blued out, wearing a Wu-Tang shirt because presidents are temporary, but the Wu-Tang is forever.
There we go. Anyways, yeah, so we are watching the presidential debate tonight, and the broadcast that we are looking at here in studio is ABC's coverage. So if you'd like to follow along with us, please turn your TV or whatever to ABC.
.com.
Yeah, whatever.
YouTube. Man, I gotta say, for the first debate, I'm super excited that Chris Wallace is moderating it. I really enjoy watching his interviews, like his style, because he's on Fox. He's very like poignant against both sides. Like he treats Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump the same.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because that kind of objective treatment you just don't see anywhere anymore with the hyper partisanship. Oh, there he is.
Right.
I'm not familiar with who he is exactly, I guess.
Fox News Sunday. So he has the Fox show on Sundays.
There he is.
Okay. Let me make sure I'm even on the right thing.
He's chatting right now.
I must be behind.
Okay. Yeah, mine must be too because
Spurgeon's got a better connection, apparently.
could be. Yeah, which
I'm
thing are you
streaming-
watching, Spurge?
ABC News
Okay.
on YouTube.
Yeah, that's where I am too.
I'm streaming from my phone onto my Apple,
Okay.
so
Is it this guy?
Yeah, are they actually debating yet, or are they?
No, he's
No.
talking. He's
Okay.
telling them the rules and all that, which is pretty common. You know, you get 45 seconds, 60 seconds, an extra 30 if they mention you by name. Like I think it's the same rules essentially as the primary, maybe a
Right.
little extended time.
when it's the same group, that puts on all the debates, right? I mean, it's the same. Can't think of the name of them.
For the general, not for the primaries. The primaries is put on by the parties.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is like the Federal Commission on
Yeah.
Debates.
Nonpartisan.
Yeah, something like that. And there's a coin toss. I
Any
believe.
quick predictions before they get into it?
I think I can't predict it. I mean, I think Biden's going to show that he's more prepared because I think Trump didn't prepare. Oh, yep, they're out there. Biden's already at his podium. Is that where you guys are at? They just squaring
No.
out?
Yeah, I think mine's finally switching over here. Well, so Cole, you have any quick predictions here?
I kind of think that Donald's just gonna, lie his ass off, and so he can say anything he wants. He's got no bar.
Mm-hmm.
See,
So I
and-
think
yeah.
Final score.
I would go with Biden
Okay.
because I think he's going to be prepped.
Alrighty. Spurge.
I mean,
I think Biden will win in terms of the actual like substance. I think Trump will have a few zingers in here and there. But I think overall Biden will look better and Trump will hyper prepare for next one, similar to the Obama 2012, where Obama looked like crap the first debate, and then he went nuts on the second two.
Okay. I'll take the other side. Trump by a touchdown.
Trump by a touchdown.
Yeah.
if as long as one of them doesn't have a freaking, heart attack and keel over
Or wander off stage, get
or
lost.
wander off stage, yeah.
Oh, look. Popcorn guy's here. Dude, how many times is he going to say malarkey?
I don't know.
But we could all agree it's not 0 times, right?
Oh, it's definitely not gonna be 0. I do like that word though. I mean, I was using that word before, like I knew Joe Biden was using that.
Go to the malarkey, shameless plug, malarkeymeter.com. We
Yeah.
own it.
All right. I think I must have been running behind on mine. I think I'm caught up with you,
Okay.
Spurge. So I'm going to put it under the mic.
Yeah.
here and-
Probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy.
Maybe we got polled
They were
already.
able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man did. Gets. And that ended when
Guess I
we, in
don't
fact,
know.
passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward.
Listen, I'm very strong on pre-existing conditions.
Yeah. So I don't know. I expected more like explosions and, sword
Fireworks?
points and
I didn't
That stuff
expect
so
him
far.
to bow down to Biden and say, "Oh, thanks, Joe." Bowing down. It's not alpha.
It's still early.
Oh, yeah, it'll get
I'm
weird,
not
don't
elected for
worry.
3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we
Okay.
have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the
Election's
100
already
million people, Joe,
Four.
the 100 million
Joe.
people is totally wrong. I don't know where
Right.
you got that number. The bigger problem that you
stop being so
have
sleepy.
is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to
This
socialist.
is we're now into.
Here we
we're
go.
now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And
broken,
one of the
you
big
idiot.
debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democrat.
Socialist
Joe. You
medicine,
know that.
Spurge.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what
All
I
your pill-
in fact,
Harris.
approved of. What I approved
Your
of.
pills are gonna
Now,
have
here's
to
the
have
deal.
a hammer
The
and
deal is
sickle
that
on 'em at the
it's gonna
pharmacy.
wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the
About
way,
time.
the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have
That was a good
survived?
save.
Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't be
the deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which
Ban
was heavily
China.
infected. You didn't want me to ban...
China.
All right,
2
we're gonna-
million
gentlemen,
people
we're-
coming in
we-
from
no,
China.
Mr. President,
You would have been
Mr.
much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court.
Isn't
And
Roe
so that's
considered, like,
also at
shit
stake
law?
right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot.
I guess it kind of
Why
depends
is
who
it
you
on the
ask,
ballot?
I guess. But
Because
Why is
you
it on
said
the ballot? It's not on
It
the
would.
ballot.
I mean,
It's on the
there's so
ballot
much
in the
precedent
court.
on
So?
it.
in the court.
It would.
Well,
There's nothing
Wouldn't it just be
happening there.
upheaval basically with all these? I mean, was it Star Decisis or whatever? That's what they don't go back and reform those type of things because there's so
yeah.
much other stuff built on that decision.
So yeah, to that remark, I mean, pretty much that's sort of the gist of it. The conversation and the argument that a super conservative Supreme Court is going to totally throw away Roe v. Wade, I think, is highly unlikely.
And that's what I've been reading too.
So, you know, the court just doesn't like to totally undo itself because the problem with that is
Can
it's,
of worms, right?
it's a can of worms, exactly. You
Yep.
start undoing one thing,
Right,
and
but
it's really only happened in pretty limited instances and sparingly over the history of the
Right.
country. So,
But
you know,
all it would-
yeah,
all it would take is one Supreme Court change to say, with a hyper majority of conservatives on the court that say they have to have admitting privileges to a hospital within 1 mile of their clinic. That ends abortion in most states. I mean, doesn't it?
well, so
They get or limiting. They have to have it within a certain time frame within a week of conception or something.
yeah, there-
Ridiculous.
You
Where
can make the law, but then you have to figure out where's the constitutional challenge.
So, and to those examples too, I mean, there's also part and part. The Roe decision is one thing, and then additionally, since then there have been other stuff which has created a thing called an undue
Burden, right?
undue burden. Yep, and the idea there is that a law can't create an undue burden on a woman's ability to get an abortion. Now, you can get lost in the weeds about whether or not some particular thing would or would not rise to that,
because that's how they
standard.
keep challenging. I mean,
But I mean, to me, worst case scenario, I guess, would maybe be stuff gets kicked back to the states more than it is now. I mean, from the standpoint of
Which some states, I mean, have been able to essentially get rid of it. There's either Louisiana,
you live in-
one of the deep reds, has one clinic
Mississippi.
in the whole
probably.
state.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if that doesn't rise to the undue burden, you could essentially get rid of it in your state.
It's possible.
Have one schmortion area.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I get what you're saying, where it could constructively be ended around there, but I mean,
Right.
I
Especially with that.
I still am unconvinced that that's as big of a threat as it's being made out to be. So
I don't know. The conservatives are like, I mean, I thought Mitch McConnell's head was going to explode. He was so excited to get to announce that, oh, we're going to fill that seat. You know, just like with Scalia, Ginsburg wasn't even cold yet, and oh, we're going to fill it.
Oh yeah, I mean, but did any of us honestly believe that it wouldn't be? I mean, I didn't.
I was hoping that there would be some spine left in some of the Republicans. I mean, you got how many of them? You know, 53 of them, and maybe at least 10 of them, including the head of the, Lindsey Graham. He said, "Use this against me if this happens in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
You use this video against me." I mean, how? And he thinks he's going to get reelected like that? I mean, what a dingo!
Oh man, he just talked about insulin prices. Insulin's so cheap, it's gonna be like water.
why don't we go back to the debate?
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you picked
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Jim.
guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely agreed
folks, do you
to,
have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Do you
Medicare.
have any
President.
do?
He's called him a
Socialized
clown.
medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because he in fact
Who
already
is
has
Bernie?
cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three,
heure at a much lower price
but-
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it
Why
to an
can't we
extent.
cut
He
Mike?
has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
Let me
know,
ask you this
probably
quick.
don't. Obama-
Is it a good debate strategy for Biden to try to go down into the mud? I mean, Trump's game is the shouting match.
Nope.
Oh yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I think Joe needs to act, moderate, control himself, unless Trump says something really heinous. I mean, then he should tell him
Like
to go
his
F
wife's
himself,
ugly.
Well,
but- yeah, or that his dad killed JFK. I mean, something like that. Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you remember the way Biden debated in the primaries?
Yeah,
Respectful
terribly.
Joe, was willing to.
I'm sorry, my time's up.
Yep, my time's up. Moving
15
on.
seconds before it was.
Yeah.
And I guess, do you think that a feistier Biden at this stage of the game is going to?
Feistier, you have to be.
Can-
You have to match that energy a little. You don't have to go down in the dirt and look like a turd and just scream over each other. But I feel like you got to stick up for yourself and not get steamrolled, which is almost impossible with against Donald Trump.
Well,
Yeah, because he doesn't. I mean,
He doesn't
he'll
stop.
say
Yeah.
well, and he'll say whatever. I mean, whatever pops into his little mushroom brain. I mean, he's just gonna say it.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that is the game plan. I mean,
Right.
whether or not you agree the allegations are baseless or not, you make them,
Right.
you don't respond to it,
You don't apologize.
you don't,
Right.
so.
Yeah, the guy's never admitted any wrong,
No.
which is just. I mean, to me, that level of narcissism is just amazing.
Well, when you've
Yeah.
got such a sterling record, Cole, I guess there isn't much to apologize for.
Cole, I mean, his uncle was really good at science, dude.
His uncle was.
His uncle is real good at science. He's got good genes, good feel for this type of stuff. Yep. MIT. Heard of it?
Hang on, guys.
Backing the court.
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how
Are you gonna
strongly
pack
you
the
feel.
court?
Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question-
left.
Would you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on
so
your
right.
list?
Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
unprecedented.
We have
He's not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
Sorry, one of the
Keep
kids must have
yapping,
left
man. The people understand, John.
our gate open in the backyard, and I can hear my dog barking next to the window.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do?
10 seconds left.
He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people.
No, I didn't.
You don't panic. He panicked.
Wrong.
In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
Couple good ones there.
If we would have listened to you,
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them
Now
said
Joe's
that.
getting under his
In
skin,
fact,
dude.
people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't
all I
have
can
made
think about is
ventilators.
Fauci
And now
covering his
we're
face
weeks
when
away
Trump
from a
starts talking
vaccine.
about
We're doing
UV
therapeutics
light
already.
and disinfecting the body.
Oh yeah. Got to inject it straight to the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, mainline it.
Mainline.
I would have, if I were Trump there, I would have pounced on Biden's line about getting out of the bunker.
Yeah.
I,
Because wasn't that his big like?
that
deal?
was the whole.
Yeah.
I mean,
Basement
that's the
Joe.
thing. Hiding Biden, hiding in the
Biden.
basement. Maybe he'll do it. Yeah, I guess he's still
Joe
talking.
be
but-
hiding.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity for Donald there.
what to what extent do you think the criticism of the coronavirus stuff is legitimate, you guys? let me say that, like, how much do you agree with Biden's stuff that he laid out there?
I mean, I think he spoke facts.
Yeah.
I mean, there was very little actual guidance vis-a-vis. Ooh, look at that, Jim. Lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
From like from the federal government to the states, and the states were just kind of making it up.
Right.
And
there was no
there
that's
no
not
united
normal.
front.
Right. And that's what usually the U.S. does the best.
Correct.
We have the CDC and the FDA, and they,
people listen to them, but in
Right.
this case, they were, individual governors were encouraged to kind of go at it their own
Right.
way, which I don't think you can mandate and legislate. There are limits of the federal government in this, but you can advise,
right,
and
have
you
good
can
advice.
build that trusting relationship so that states follow, and then you end up getting into a better. We're not the only country with states. Canada has provinces. They have differences in their provinces. Canada is way low on COVID.
Right.
Like, not an issue, given they have a lot of landmass and few people.
So, in your ideal universe, the federal government would have said, here's what you need to do, A, B, C, D,
Here's how we're helping.
but
Right.
we're not going to make you do it? Is that what I'm to understand?
You needed to. I mean, they needed to when we didn't know anything, like how deadly it was actually going to be, who was going to kill what, the age groups. They needed to mandate it. I mean, the Fed needed to come in and say, this is what we're doing. We're going to lock down. We're going to see how this goes. I mean, the New York,
Isn't that kind of what happened, though, Cole? Didn't we have 2 weeks to slow the spread and everybody hid in under their mattress and stuff? I mean, for the most part. I think everybody was largely on board in mid-March with the 2 weeks to slow the spread thing.
I guess I didn't see that.
Well, you would have had to report to work regardless, I think.
Right. I mean, yeah, I was going to work anyway, but, I just I mean, people weren't doing as much. They, some of the, they shut they did shut down the schools, which I was kind of shocked about, but, I don't think that was like a Fed thing as far as I know. I mean, that was the state, I think did the right thing and said, hey, we're just going to preemptively do this. Because no one really knew. I mean, that was the worst thing about COVID. It was so new, and then you look how it burned through China, and then it burned through New York. I mean, with the population density. I mean,
In Italy and
right?
In these places, but
Now it's burning through us.
I guess my thought is just the fragmentation of the United States right now, politically, spilled over into fragmentation in public health policy, which that it became if you're red you're against masks,
Right.
if you're blue you're for masks,
And
like,
that's the worst thing that's come out of this, I think.
it's not good. It's really, really bad that this political division has led to us discrediting science. Like, science is supposed to be objective. Is it changing? Absolutely. By definition, we go with what the best evidence at that time tells us.
Evidence-based practice.
Yeah, 100% shit's gonna change. 100%.
Like hydroxychloroquine. I mean, there's still doctors that.
Oh, I got asked about it last week.
Yeah, I know, and there's no evidence, none. There's been no study. Well, no decent study anyway.
Correct. And
that has shown any kind of. I mean, there's no evidence, and that's why our doctors aren't prescribing it, because they practice evidence-based medicine, which is what everyone's supposed to do. But
well, so I mean, to some of your guys' points out there, I'm not sure. How would you respond to the argument of it's not the science that people necessarily have an issue with, or the veracity of the science, so on and so forth? It's more about whether or not the public health policy is related in a rational way to what the science is indicating. So, to your own admission, Cole, we had quite a lengthy period of time where we didn't know a whole lot about the virus.
Right.
So, obviously we've gained a lot more understanding since then.
Well, I mean, yeah, Iowa let
Light
out of
years.
schools. We didn't get it. Emmett County didn't get its first case till June.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
First confirmed one, I suppose.
Well, and I'm sure it was,
True.
there was probably a few around, but as you can see, I mean, we're still seeing cases of it. So, I mean, it was, there might have been those few weirdos that just chose not to, do anything about it or didn't know any better. But, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't here. I still hear people say, oh, it was here in January. Well, no, it wasn't. I mean,
Right.
Well,
it wasn't here.
I suppose we don't know whether or not it was or.
No, that we do. I mean, you
We
can
do know.
epidemiologically trace it
Yeah.
to like late December in China.
Right.
Okay.
And you can tell with antibody tracing and that
So
it didn't
a
hit
point,
the
yeah.
U.S. till like February.
Right. And that's the same thing. It would have come in, that's why it went into New York first. I mean, those big population centers that have tons of
International
commuters
travel and
right.
it's a hub.
So that's why those always go. I mean, so
have
you
you
don't
seen
want to live in New York.
Contagion?
Right. You don't want to live in New York.
Not bad.
So yeah, that to me, that there was no, and granted, I know of a friend that flew back in March into Minneapolis from South Korea when they were raging and didn't get screened. There was no, and so, I mean, that was a major failure too, but, and granted he didn't have COVID, but who knew, nobody knew that, he flew direct from Seoul, South Korea to Minneapolis and then drove to Wisconsin to his family's house.
Well,
I was talking to him, but I said, so was there any kind of screen? Oh no, I breezed right through.
Well, so answer me this: if we're willing to grant that the science is a changing frontier, and that there was a lengthy period of time where there was all sorts of unknowns and so forth associated with the virus, then is it really fair to criticize policy measures that were taken during that time and say, oh, well, you should have done it this way or you should have done it that way? When you have the benefit and the retrospect of hindsight.
Sure.
We
But
still
weren't following the science then.
right.
We were still
Right.
we were still not being shown by people that are highly influential people like the president that
That was
wearing
saying,
a
oh, it's no
mask.
worse than the flu,
It's no
when
worse
now-
than the flu. Like
and it's going to go away when it warms up. You know?
yes, like
And he knew better. He was
like
getting
it or
briefed
not,
that it's going to be
he's
much
a
worse.
highly influential person
Right.
for 30 to 40% of the population, and 30 to 40% of the population are then not following scientific recommendations and thinking it's no worse than the flu, then it doesn't matter what the other 60% of the population does, because it's the bubble, the containment, the decrease in transmission is for naught, because it's going
Which
to
is
travel.
what's still going on. I
Yes.
mean, there's still people that are, following the guideline. And granted, they're all in school now, so I mean that's a big petri dish. But after H1N1, Obama put things in place, to try to prevent this kind of widespread global. It wasn't ever going to stop it, but things to significantly slow it down, like stockpiling N95s, and all these things that
Well, and our little ambassadors over in Wuhan, and
right.
like having
But
little outposts that are in these countries that you're not going to get good info out
that
of.
are working directly with their
Right.
version of the CDC, which there was one there 2 months before the
Yep.
COVID outbreak, and Trump pulled them.
Yep.
Trump's administration pulled them. So I mean,
He didn't have anything to do with that personally.
No, not
I'm sure.
personally. But it
So
was just anything that he could unwind of Obama's, he did.
The Trump administration should have approached the unknown COVID virus at the time like the Obama administration handled the H1N1 outbreak.
No, H1N1
they should have
was
learned
bungled.
from what H1N1.
But there
That-
were reports after H1N1 of, hey, it would have been
Right.
really nice if we had X, Y, and Z. Let's
Right,
put
if
those
we
in
had done
place
these
for next
things.
time.
I mean, they put all these things. The CDC, I'm sure some people's heads were exploding there because they put all these things in place. I mean, that's why this time we shut down, because we knew that this was probably not going to be good, and so that's that was one of the things I think they gleaned from H1N1 was, if we effectively shut down the country, that will slow the spread enough that we don't overwhelm our resources. That's my understanding of it from my small, little critical access PN existence here. But
So, one more question on the virus stuff, then we'll get back to the debate here a little bit. But today is the 29th of September. Does a case of coronavirus on 9/29 mean the same thing as it did April 1st, 2020?
There's a little more known. Therapeutically, there's not a lot.
right.
What do we know
well,
about the
there-
death rates at this juncture?
As far as like how lethal is it?
Yes.
I haven't seen a specific R not, but I mean the older you are, the more comorbidities you have, the less you deal with it. But that's not to say. I mean, I've seen healthy people. We've flown healthy people out that have really no other real reason that no respiratory issue or no major health issue, just bad luck, whatever, for whatever reason, the strain they got or the for whatever reason, it seems to affect people very differently. And so that we know now that originally we weren't treating people. So with respiratory, Spurge can expound on this much better than I can, but we give them steroid like dexamethasone and
You're welcome.
Solumedrol and that basically boosts them to kind of stop this storm of, was it histamines, I think, Spurge?
Cytokines.
Cytokine. That's what they were worried about. That's why we weren't using Dex originally, and now we know it's the bradykines that are what really are causing all this inflammation. I mean, it's way beyond my knowledge base, but the small amount I do know is that we should have been using steroids all along, which we didn't know. Some study at some point said that or some major hospital person came out and said, oh, this is causing a cytokine storm once we gave the Dex. So that wasn't like a first line thing. And now, I mean, we're doing it with everyone basically, because that's the treatment for someone that has a respiratory issue like that. I mean, so we're treating it kind of like we do anything else now, but we didn't know any better,
Sure.
I mean, it's still worldwide. It's one out of every 33.5 that get it die.
Right.
Okay.
So
How about
it's
the
still
United
significant.
States? Do you have any information there?
3% in the world.
Okay.
U.S. case versus mortality.
Is that just the case total divided by the current death total? Is that how you arrive at that number?
Yeah, because you don't take number of deaths over population. I see this all over the place, and people do that. That's not how math works.
Well,
it's not how medical math works. Anyway.
Isn't it true we have a lot of asymptomatic cases? I mean, isn't that part of the reason for the masks and the distancing and the 2 weeks stuff and all of that? Because
just like influenza, it just doesn't manifest itself right away symptomatically. So you can be positive you can be shedding like influenza, and I'll use that because I know that specifically. I mean, it's been studied forever that for like 3 days before you show symptoms, you can be spreading influenza, which is why it spreads so quickly. That and it's viral and it. But we're applying those same principles to COVID because it has a lot of similar type features. And correct me
Sure.
if I'm wrong, Spurge, but that's why we're that's why we're saying mask, and which is stuff that we probably should have been doing with influenza all along, because influenza kills a lot of people every year. We've just found it acceptable, basically. I mean, and influenza kills kids.
So
little kids,
U.S. is roughly a 2.86% death rate.
Okay, which has no adjustments for age or health or anything.
That's flat.
Flat.
That's
Right.
all inclusive.
So okay, so
that's total cases and total deaths.
and is the total cases figure the confirmed case figure, the 7 million?
That's tests. I mean, because how can you really tell?
Well, I guess that's my question is if it's been, at least I've read that, and my understanding is that there is speculation that there's a significant amount of asymptomatic cases and asymptomatic transfers. So if that's the case, then would the accurate case count be substantially larger than the confirmed total?
It's larger.
Right.
I'll tell you that much.
And eventually that'll be factored. I mean, they'll factor that in. Just like with influenza, they can model it,
Yeah.
Statistically, they can model, yes, there's probably this amount of people that were asymptomatic and didn't get tested. And, so yeah, will it probably be lower? Yes.
My guess is it'll stick around 1.9.
Right. It'll be it'll be a point off, maybe. I think I'm sure we could probably look up what that would actually be, but
Okay. All righty. Well, we're beating a dead horse here. Why don't we go back to the debate?
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of that.
return.
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see
When?
it. But let
In
me just
Shalom?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes, on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says
those
he's
poor
smart because he can
teachers.
take advantage
Poor
of the tax
teachers.
code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm
9
going to
months
eliminate the
off.
Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to
they can add
eliminate those
paramedics,
tax
firefighters,
cuts and
in
make
there, too.
sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't
Why didn't you
president.
do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years?
screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
waste.
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you
How did
never
we
even
come to
thought
that,
of doing,
Joey?
including
It's bad math. It's like
Yeah.
43, but
yeah, but his people can't add. So I mean,
yeah.
So on the I think the subject matter of that line of questioning was the tax stuff.
Started with the tax stuff. Yep.
So why don't we hit on that a little bit? Is the allegation against Trump that he had all sorts of taxes but then didn't pay and in fact only paid $750?
The last 2 years.
Is that the allegation?
16 and 17. That's what
Yeah.
the new report that came out 2 days ago said.
Is the $750 his tax
Personal, I
liability, or is that a reflection of what his actual tax bill was?
That's like money out. That's
Yeah.
after write-offs, after credits, after all that. That's money writing a check
Okay.
is the allegation.
Okay. Is there any allegation of
And
fraud or illegal activity.
They're not gonna. They're not gonna do it. I mean, the Times. The Times is the one that got the. I mean, they got his, taxes somehow, and they're not gonna. I mean, why even open themselves to liability? I don't think you could tell either.
Well, they did start talking about the $72 million write-off he took a few years ago that the IRS has been had him locked up in court over.
Right, and he's basically just
that they're claiming is ridiculous, fraudulent, and he got it. He got $72 million.
Yeah, as a
return from the government, and
which
so the IRS now is fighting that, which may be this audit he keeps talking about. I don't know. But I loved that Biden and Harris both released their this year's taxes today and showed what they paid, which was around 25 to 28% of income. Similar to, what you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so even let's grant that the way the facts are being laid out here is a fair portrayal of the situation. Is that, so what? He took advantage of the tax loopholes and so forth to his advantage.
I think the thought process is he probably has, but knowing how he behaves, he's probably done more than take advantage. I mean, to the point of, I think there's a reason that he hasn't ever come out and said, here's my taxes, because the liability of it for him it's a lose-lose. He's going to probably go to jail for it, and it's going to cost him a whole bunch of money he doesn't have, clearly.
See, and I wouldn't even take it that far, Cole. I don't think he's probably going to go to jail for it because the IRS has these taxes. Like I truly don't think that someone else snooping around in this man's taxes is going to send him to jail. What I think it is an ego thing. I think it may show.
He's not worth anything, probably.
Right.
It's all
or debts. He's writing off debts.
Right.
That was the other thing that came out of this was like a $427 million debt that he is personally guarantor on that comes due within the next 4 years while he's still president. And for me, that's an issue.
Right. That's insane.
Yeah.
And how do you go from a $400 million inheritance to being just that amount of debt? That blows.
So
he had to have some kind of, if he did it legitimate. If it's legitimate, he had to have some major backers or some kind of major. Because who's going to give him a loan like that without huge collateral? Right?
Well, he has huge collateral. He owns things.
That was my next question.
That's it's all inflated though. Dorel,
it's inflated for the purposes of getting loan, and it's depreciated for purposes of paying taxes,
which is illegal.
Yeah, that's bank fraud, but
yeah. So
but this is Bank of China and Deutsche Bank. This is not.
But it's still illegal. They still have. There's
regulations.
That's still a federal crime. But he's going to pardon himself on the way out the door anyway.
Does the United States have jurisdiction over Deutsche Bank and the Bank of China?
Yeah, they do, because they have a branch here, I think, right? So that would make him. It's still a federal crime. It's a bank fraud.
What if he did his business in China or Germany?
I would defer to you. I don't
know how that goes.
Yeah, but I would assume if they have a office here, which I know they do, because it's like in a Trump something.
Yeah, there might be it's one allegation after another with you guys, and one speculative remark after another, which are unsubstantiated.
Oh, here we go with the lawyer talk coming in.
So,
coming in hot.
we've heard remarks about debt and so on, but yet we have seen nothing regarding what the assets are, and obviously everybody knows it's net worth equals assets minus liabilities. So
he could lay it all the rest. All he has to do is, throw his taxes out there and let people look at it.
Well,
the thing is, he doesn't need to, because the people that are supporting him are fine with not knowing.
Yeah,
and
they
the
don't
people
care.
who will never vote for him are the ones clamoring.
Well, if I were in Trump's shoes, I would leverage the tax returns on having Sleepy Joe take a drug test. And
I want him an observe test, and I want to watch both of them pee in a cup. I want to see the pant drop.
Can you imagine that thing's got to be just Trump? He's not exactly been.
The question is, how much Flomax would these guys need to fill a 60 milliliter sample? Their old process.
I wish that was a debate question.
That needs to. Here's the real question: why will neither of the candidates sit down with Project Ion?
Yeah, no kidding. If they really want,
what are they afraid of?
Yeah, if they really want to reach the people, come to the basement, right?
We'll gladly have them in the bunker.
The answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
That
get rid
is
of
absolutely
you know what, you're
not true.
doing it.
You're going to
You're on
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice,
He's
but
on
it seems to
tape.
be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well,
Why don't they just cut his mic?
Well,
That's what I don't
frankly,
get.
you've been doing more interrupting.
Clearly
than
can't
but he does
control
plenty.
himself.
Well, less than, sir, less
There's
than.
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on.
Is Chris Wallace part of
The
the
issue
deep
of race.
state?
Vice President Biden, you say that
Fox News is in on
President
it.
Trump's response to the violence
Lehman's
in
willing to go.
Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden,
Listen,
you go first.
I've been great for the
It's about
blacks.
equity and equality. It's about
Browns.
decency. It's about the
Love
Constitution.
me.
And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed, and they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides.
Oh, man.
No
Knew that was
president has
coming
ever
back.
said
Finish
anything
this
like
thing.
that.
Finish this thing.
It is who's
Now,
who
second,
in it, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
He
racism.
did a crime bill, 1994.
Oh, there's a
Where
crime
you
bill.
call them super predators, African Americans, the super
smart move.
predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters.
That was a
and
good
why
one.
aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after
So how'd we feel about that round?
Law and order. A little substance.
Yeah.
You know, attacking the Democratic establishment, not attacking the person, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's a winning issue for Trump and Republicans generally is the civil unrest stuff. You know, I think if I guess it's been perplexing to me why more people on the Dem side haven't taken a stronger stance.
Broken ranks.
You know, because I think it's I'm sorry, but busted up businesses and insurance fallout and, you know, all the kind of nastiness, property damage and stuff. It's a loser for anybody. So
you look at Minneapolis. I mean, they've arrested the guys that are starting the burning, and it's not every, but there are plenty of instances where it's a white dude that is coming up and starting a fire or throwing a brick through a window. I mean, it's not just a one-sided issue. I mean, there's plenty of looters, rioters that are, it's not just one community or another. It's a, mob mentality. I mean,
right. But I mean, to Trump's point and to a lot of conservatives' point, I mean, it's not the conservative voter that is out there.
Oh, I disagree with that. I think those are, yeah.
So
I think by and large, all the protests seen are non-conservative voters.
Yeah, but look at, so to me, protesting is, the guys standing around with their assault rifles, screaming at people or intimidating people. They're still protesting. They're just doing it in.
Oh, I agree. I'm just talking about sheer numbers.
Oh yeah,
those people are outnumbered. The Bundys who were out protesting and took over a federal building with guns for a month or whatever it was. Cliven Bundy, remember that dude?
Yeah, he still hasn't gone to prison.
They're not voting. They're not riding with Biden. And
But you know, the funny thing about that is he was protesting that he had to actually pay to
yeah,
graze his cattle on federal land.
yeah.
He wanted something for free, so he's basically a welfare queen, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
If you want to call, you know, put down people
And
on,
everyone,
you know,
no one's going to defend Cliven Bundy. If they do,
people
they're-
do.
Yeah, but
Just like, why would anyone defend those dingles at, you know, in Charlottesville? I mean, are they good people or not? My you know, thought process is not so much. I mean,
no, I don't think they're great people.
no, I don't think they're great people at all. They're terrible people
Yeah,
out there with their little tiki torches, you know.
yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
do you? I mean, I don't think Charlottesville should have done you. I think there was a lot of real racist shit, but I also live in a country where I don't think that the government should be telling me what I can and can't protest or what I can and can't think.
that I would agree to that, but it shouldn't be at the cost of somebody else. Which to me, that's what Charlottesville was at the cost of. Well, another
Right. And
person.
so was Minneapolis, and so
Right. Yeah.
you know, all these places where this damage has occurred. It's at the cost of the community, the small business owners, the big business owners. Like, yeah, I feel less bad for Target, but I still feel, I mean, it's still their
Yeah, right.
freaking property,
Well, and it's
their
and the
store,
people
their
that work there.
business. People
Yeah,
work there.
The minimum wage people that are working at Target don't have a place to go to work the next day. Yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing.
No, it's a very bad thing.
But
I'd like to
also-
hear what you guys think. Why is literally every city blue?
Yeah.
Why?
You know, I can't think of. Can anyone think of a conservative controlled city?
I guess not off the top of my head.
I don't know much about the southern cities.
Yeah.
You know, but
And that could be a different story. But
Look at Atlanta is a blue city.
yeah,
Biloxi, is that
Austin, Houston,
Yeah.
Dallas.
yeah.
those are all blue.
Yeah,
But you know, we're in the majority. I mean, we're the majority of the country too. We just are represented by less because that's how the system is set up. I mean, look at you think of it this way, which is just always shocks me. So what is it? 700,000 people in Wyoming, and they have 2 senators. And there's 40 million people in California, and they have 2 senators. Granted, I know why that system is in place, but I mean, if John Hancock was around today, I feel like he might have made a little adjustment to that scenario.
Well, I think they had densely populated areas in
New York,
and
right.
lightly, sparsely populated areas at the time of the founding too. And that's the
the whole point of
that's the
having
whole
a Senate
nature
in the house.
of the
It is.
system.
I mean, I understand why it's there, but it just reeks of underrepresentation. I mean, why can, I mean, what is it? It's like, the Republican Senate right now represents 15 or no, it's like 30 million. It's either 15 or 30 million less people. I mean, and they're the majority. That to me, that's insane.
And I guess I understand that, Cole. I understand the system, and I guess I don't disagree with the system because Iowa also gets 2 senators.
They do, right?
And that gives us a little bit of leverage in that situation. But I guess my issue is how things have been so conflated in terms of where spending bills are supposed to start in the House. Why are spending bills not able to start in the House? I mean, it seems like they're coming out of the Senate. Like right now with this whole stimulus stuff, which would be a spending bill.
Because that's the only way the minority can flex their muscle is, I mean, that's McConnell's whole game. That's why he's putting all these radical judges in.
They do get the judgeship court.
We've got the best judges,
Best judges.
the most fabulous, terrific judges.
ABC,
Federalist
ACB,
Society. I mean,
ACB. Is that the new chick?
Yeah,
The Notre Dame
ABC,
lady?
ACB,
ACB.
Yeah.
instead of RBG.
Yep. Yeah, that's sort of tangential. Why does everybody need to have like a 3-letter nickname thing anymore? That's getting annoying.
I think it started with RG3 out in Washington.
Yep. Yeah, well, Cole, I mean, it sounds to me like you are not super gung-ho about checks and balances.
I don't think that it's working. Is my? I mean, I don't know if it. You know, I wasn't into. I followed politics. You know, saying like Obama kind of got me excited about politics, I guess.
He was hip.
But but as far as like the Senate at that time, I didn't. You know, I voted for Chuck Grassley once, which just
Wow, that's you totally
disgust me.
You
I'm making
flipped
that clip is going on Facebook.
Yeah,
That-
I voted for him once. You know,
You
my
have-
first
Yeah,
my first election, I voted for Chuck.
that just shattered my worldview.
I know,
I can't even really come up with stuff to say right now.
but you know, Chuck had a spine at one time too,
He did.
and did some good things.
Well, he could actually, and I understand where Cole's coming from in terms of it not work. Like, what can the House do right now to check?
They can't do anything.
They
Because-
they have the power to investigate, to check
That's-
but
they
executive
don't,
branch. But
because
no, we're
this-
not going to do
they don't.
subpoenas. Like,
Right.
okay, so
So-
grow a spine and enforce your damn subpoena.
Mhm.
Is
Well,
it the
but-
House's fault for not, busting out the sergeant at arms with the mace of the House?
And that's the
Go
only way
present
to do
it to somebody and say, listen, you're going to go into Capitol Jail if you don't comply with our subpoenas.
So that really, to me, that's where the dysfunction is. There is no like, and it's not just probably all one side, but
Oh, it's
I am
definitely
cl-
not.
I'm clearly a little bit biased because I think McConnell really is the devil.
Just a little.
Right,
That's coming
just a
from an
little.
atheist. He thinks someone's the devil.
Right.
Fair
The word
enough.
still applies. I mean,
I found a pencil.
You did.
but
Well, okay. So let me ask you a bigger picture question. Then, I mean, there's all of the. I think you'd find fairly widespread agreement among people on both sides of the aisle that the federal legislature is dysfunctional and is a big problem. So, is the answer to that problem just hand me the power stick and we'll do it my way and that's the correct way, or is it to rein that power in so it's less of a big deal, or is it some other alternative?
Yes.
how do you rein it in
Take
though?
the power.
I mean, there's no.
you got to take the power back. Damn.
They're
Here's
the
plan,
ones that are
motherfucker,
that's the
understand.
biggest problem with our system is the people that write the bills are the ones that are how good are people at I'm terrible at self-regulation, and clearly Congress isn't they're not any better. They're working towards their self-interest versus really what probably would be beneficial. I mean, they're not to the system as a whole or the country as a whole. They're working for what they want. I mean,
Right.
which is just a systemic problem.
I
mean,
wholeheartedly agree.
yeah.
So
Burn it down.
if the
Not for anarchy. I'm just gonna
well,
out there.
I mean, we know from the 10th Amendment that the powers that are not enumerated to the federal government in the Constitution are reserved to the states.
Right.
And the whole arrangement in the first place was that each state would be willing to cede a limited amount of power to the federal government.
Limited amount.
And, in exchange for the benefits of everybody
Belonging to the Federation.
Belonging to the Federation, exactly.
Military
Right.
presence, all that shit.
Yep. And then, dispute resolution too. What if Virginia is pissed off at Kentucky or something, and
Yep.
they're fighting each other? Well,
Tug-
okay,
Tug of war.
there's a supremacy thing with the
Right.
federal government.
which is what how they do the drug law.
My whole argument, and I think the history of the United States can be summarized in, a death by 1,000 cuts of power slowly seeping away from localities and the state level to the federal government. And, whether or not you agree it was caused by business interest or was business interest facilitated it or it has created an environment for business interest to take advantage of it. The fact of the matter is, in my opinion, that by reducing the amount of people who need to be bought and sold to the federal government and by swinging the pendulum of power in that direction too far, it's essentially turned the country into an oligarchy where we have a dysfunctional legislature that is only thinking in terms of what short-term decision can we make right now to benefit us today, as opposed to
stay in power
and to grasp power as much as possible. And it's very counterproductive. And I think that we live in a nation that is huge and it's diverse and it's complicated, and I think problems are best administered close to the source, meaning that the people can throw rocks and hit their representatives that actually wield power over them. And we unfortunately don't have that today. So anyway, sorry I went on a big soliloquy.
No, and I think
I
that's
like
wonderful.
to hear you talk, Jim.
Because
I do.
A House of Representatives member and a senator was never meant to be a profession.
No, absolutely not.
It was meant to be a service that you provided.
A reluctant one.
A reluctant service, because you have to answer to these folks. When's the last time Chuck Grassley has been hanging out, or Joni Ernst have been hanging out, down at the pub on Main Street in small town Iowa?
Right.
No.
And his 99 county tour is just BS, because it's not like a general. I mean, if he was coming,
Did you go?
So I've been waiting. Well, I couldn't, because it was
in the middle of a work day.
Right, real people have to work.
Yeah.
I
was working.
So I couldn't go, but the one time I was able to go was with Merrick Garland, and it was at the hospital. That was the only reason I was able to attend, because it was like 10 a.m. and I got Linda to cover, my manager, to cover for me, so I could go down. And I asked Grassley about Merrick Garland and how it was right that he wasn't even going to give him a vote. Well, it's going to cost too much money. I said, that's your duty as one of your constituent. I want him to actually be able to get a vote. The president nominates, you advise and consent, which means giving him his chance.
Which is, that whole thing still, that pisses me off. That was ridiculous.
If he didn't have the votes to win, fine, give him a vote anyway. It wasn't.
And he wasn't a raging liberal.
Right, and that I agree with, and that's the way it's supposed to work. If it's a Senate opposite to the president from a political party standpoint, and you don't have the votes to get your,
so be it.
Then so be it. And
vote him down.
But vote him down. But then then you start wheeling and dealing. Then you say, okay, well, if you don't like so and so, then what if I nominate ABC? And the thought process is there then that you don't have you're meeting in the middle, and now suddenly you do that over and over again. The court isn't some kind of weaponized extension of the legislative branch, but it is instead the judicial branch.
And now it's a weapon. I mean, the court. I don't know what's going to happen with the court. It scares me. I don't like the idea of packing it. I don't like the idea of playing these ridiculous shenanigan games. And I don't doubt that this woman's is a smart jurist.
Oh, she sure is.
Will do her job very well.
But I don't think she can control her idealism enough.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know her judicial record. If that has been proven out to be fact, or if like Scalia, who had his own very views, but he was
Right.
just a literalist. He was, if it's not in this document as written at the time,
right?
it's a dead document. It's not a living document. They wrote these words for a reason. And that's what she says her judicial philosophy is. Right on.
Yeah, but her record doesn't show that.
I don't know what her
Her-
record is.
Her comment, that's my. So I'm an atheist, so I'm again biased, of course, but I don't think that someone that really how do I put this politically correct?
She's very,
she's
very Catholic. You don't think she can put that on a shelf?
I don't. I think that and which is okay. I'm not against. I'm a confirmed Catholic, but it's not something that you see with, and like even my grandfather, it's something that he holds deeply and dearly, and that's great, but that's not something that you can turn off. You feel that way for a reason, and you're going to make your decisions based on those.
As the lawyer, Jim, do you know anything about this lady? I just
Nope.
heard, I just heard she's smart as shit.
I know very little. Yeah, I think she was
She is.
a high top student and so forth.
Yeah.
But
she was appeals, right? She's on the appeals.
most
circuit.
of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the federal court of appeals, and then they get bumped. I mean, I think once you get to that level, you're kind of on a short list for,
right.
Because I mean those people are appointed too. So
Yeah.
she's already been vetted. She's already had confirmation hearings, and so on and so forth. So it'll be sort of a rehash of the same stuff that never got televised because it wasn't a big deal at the time. I mean, nobody cares about
Well, hers was
people who
hers
get
was
appointed.
kind of
to the, yeah,
hers was kind of a big deal because Feinstein made a stupid comment about the dogma lives within her as far as her religious views.
Weird. Feinstein making
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, another
dumbass decisions.
ancient. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
And this is all, and this is not something probably that I should even say, especially something that's been recorded, but RBG was totally selfish. She could have retired under Obama,
Right, but she was very good friends with Scalia. I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg had her own agenda and how she ruled, but I think she was very much wanting to keep politics out of the court, and I think most of them do.
I
really do.
I think her whole incentive was she thought, like everyone else did, Clinton was going to win, and then she was going to retire and let Clinton pick her. She wanted the first female president. She's a feminist. I understand that's and it was her prerogative, but it's going to screw the country for the next 50 years probably, or my idealism of the country anyway. Because I think with the Democrats like to talk about court packing, but we'll never do it. We'll live under the
right. But I mean, it's already been proven that just because a president picks the nominee or the president nominates the justice, Kavanaugh ruled against Trump in the taxes thing.
Right. But you know what I'm saying though. I mean, they still, I hope, have some morals. I mean, they're not Donald Trump, but they, I don't think the Democrats did themselves any favor as far as Kavanaugh. If he can hose him a little bit, he's gonna.
I don't know, man. If you show me solid evidence in the last even 10 years of the court being overtly political, then I think we can have a discussion about it. I just have not seen the proof in the pudding.
The Roberts
voted with the liberals.
Right. He has several times.
Yeah.
And has kind of tried to keep it centralist, but only to the point where it doesn't mess with his agenda. In my feeling, his agenda anyway. I mean, if you look at he opened up the dark money. I mean, that was his worst decision.
Oh yeah, that was a terrible decision.
Right.
But I don't think it was overtly political. because both freaking sides use ridiculous lobbyist money. Cash
Right,
rules
but so-
everything around them. Dollar bill, y'all. That's a
why-
rap phrase.
Why make it even worse? You know, he opened it. I mean, opened it up to what it is today, where, you know, if you got $1 billion bucks laying around, like a fine example of is Bloomberg.
Dude,
you
you're 100% correct. But that is not a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. That is an oligarchy thing. That is a ruling elite class thing. Keeping
Right.
power concentrated at the top. That is not, you know,
Preach.
they're two sides of the same shit coin.
Well, yeah, that's what gets tedious to me about the partisan mudslinging stuff. Is so oftentimes it circumvents really the root of the problem, in my view, at least. Just because Washington D.C. sucks.
What do you think about
yeah.
publicly funded elections, Jim?
Publicly funded elections? So you set a budget for everybody.
Yang. What about Yang's idea?
They only get
every
much.
voter gets $1,000 to allocate via state, local, national, whatever you want to do. You get $1,000 per vote.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for any kind of measure that's going to have a net result in. I mean, frankly, for me personally, I don't align neatly with either political party, but it forces everybody into a kind of a cost-benefit analysis of, well, I care about abortion, or I care about taxes, or I care about health care, or I care about First Amendment, or whatever it might be. And so you're forced to factor in this kind of stuff and then pick a side sort of accordingly.
Right.
And I'm all for busting up that paradigm as much as
dichotomy.
possible. Well, it is. It doesn't serve people. It doesn't. I mean, the parties don't fairly and accurately represent the largest swath of the country. Who, I'm still a believer that most people are not that far off of center. There'd be some that would disagree with me.
I think it's America's center, though, because America's center is right of Europe's center.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
whatever, but I still think the point stands because
Yes, I agree.
What the Republican platform being ABCD, Democrat being the other side of that kind of thing. Are we really wanting to be pigeonholed as voters into saying, well, I'll choose this side that represents 50% of me, I guess, this time around. Why can't we have more parties where people feel like they're more adequately represented, and then have these parties actually be able to compete? That's the real. It's not the fact that there aren't parties out
Correct.
there.
They exist.
It's that there's so many obstacles, and that's the
set up by.
That's the setup thing, and it's been enabled by court decisions. It's been enabled by statute. It goes on and on. But so. It sucks. I wish we had more parties.
And I get so interested. I had a friend who was a poli-sci major. Super interesting learning about how other countries handle stuff like this. Where in like Israel, of all places, U.S. loves Israel. They got like 25 parties.
Mm-hmm.
None, like the biggest party represents like 16% of their legislature. Right. Then you got to get parties working together to form a majority cohort,
right?
And things.
Mm-hmm.
I freaking love it, man.
Yep,
but
it makes sense.
It's
to
what
me.
80 years. Well, 40? Oh gosh,
math's hard.
Yeah, math's hard, especially after a couple of natties.
Cold drinking a natty.
I am seltzer even.
Watching your figure.
So, yeah, not really. Surge, come on. They're like 100, less than 100 years old as far as their country. I mean, so they had some, better ideas probably. I mean, they were more advanced. It was 40
Yeah, but I think even England does, don't they? They got like the Tories and the
I don't. Yeah.
conservative
the
liberals.
Parliament,
I don't know much about their system.
Yeah,
It's weird.
that I don't know about. I know that the Israelis do have a good. I mean, but they as a people, I feel like have some very interesting organizational, governmental things. I mean, you have to have a reason to have a gun, which I think is, and they're surrounded by people that want to kill them. So I find a lot of their ideas very interesting without ever having been there. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of things I wouldn't like either, but
Yeah. Well, any kind of measure that's going to foster cooperation as opposed to just leveraging kind of a negotiation. Okay, the wind is blowing in my favor this time around, so I'm going to really put the vice grip on you this time. I'm all for that.
The money, how do you get the money out? Seems to be the root cause of most of our governmental problems.
You know
There's
what's
so
great
much
is they buy both sides, though. Pfizer spends the same amount on the
they do,
conservative
right,
as
yeah.
they do the
Oh, they do.
liberals.
It's not that, to me, that's not a one-sided issue, but that was another, that a company can be what did he say?
They're people.
The companies are people.
Corporations are people.
Right. That was.
They don't pay taxes either.
Right. So there again, I mean, that's a pretty extreme. I mean, I don't think that. Why would you ever? How do you even conceptualize that? You don't. You're clearly you have an objective, which is again, off your morals and ideals, and so. But I mean, you can't get the money out now is the biggest problem.
Do we want to touch back in with
Let's see what's going
Biden
on.
and Mr. Trump?
Ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that
He's
those
numbered,
people who
just like
want to
Obama
vote
used
in
to.
person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it, too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster.
Donald.
A solicited ballot, Okay,
is.
solicited is
Solicited.
okay.
It's okay.
You're soliciting. You're asking. They send it back. You send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending
Florida.
millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say, you have to have your ballot in by November 10th. November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election.
Literally,
in
no one
theory,
said that.
should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by
2 minutes
Democrats.
is 2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump.
It's a rigged election.
So here's a question for you guys. Why in the United States do we have locally administered federal elections?
Do not know. It's a damn good question.
I don't know either.
It's a damn good question.
Yeah.
Why is there no standard?
Well, I mean,
Standard form.
exactly. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of. I'm trying to remember. I took a class in election law in law school, actually, and this was one of the themes that we touched on a little bit. And I'm not doing a very good job remembering it book and verse here, but I think the punchline is the United States is the only developed country that does not have federally administered
Elections.
federal elections. Yeah, we have locally
One.
administered
And
federal
I
elections.
guess,
yeah.
Jim, this is a fine reason not to have that because can you imagine Donald Trump with his thumb on that? I mean, he's got his accolades at the CDC saying, "Oh no, we can't put this out. We gotta skew this just a little bit."
And,
gotta-
and
you know.
so are you saying there is a concern there that you get a Trump
tyrant?
in, a tyrant in, or something, and then they take
Right.
over every
And well, that's what the Electoral College. That's still the reason that we have Electoral College, supposedly, is to prevent a tyrant or populist, I guess, from dominating.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, to me, that was the whole premise. That's what I hear.
Well, it's also to give representation to smaller states.
Yeah, to the less population.
Yeah.
Yeah, the popular vote is not what elects the president, but
Right.
yep. So yeah, and maybe
it is interesting.
maybe
though.
that is why the federal elections are locally administered. Then it is supposed to be a check on runaway.
Runaway Fed.
Right. But I'm trying to think of, okay, well, how could that be challenged if, let's say there is some sort of an issue? Can another
Well,
branch of the federal government check that? Then,
Well, it still comes back to you look at Florida and Bush v. Gore, right? That they decided that election. They said we're going to stop counting. The Supreme Court ruled that they were going to stop counting.
hmm
So I mean that check and balance isn't really valid because they decided. I don't.
And so,
know
yeah,
anything.
Bush v. Gore, Jim, what precedent did that set? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, my recollection 20 years ago was that
It was the butterfly
just-
ballot, wasn't it?
Yeah, or the
Hanging Chads.
hanging chads or
Yeah,
something.
that's right. Yep.
I mean, I
yep.
was so young at the time. I guess it's hard for
Yeah.
me to remember anything
we
other
couldn't
than
vote
kind of
then.
bumper sticker stuff. Yeah, right. But I
I'm-
don't know. I'd have to
I
look
think
that
it'd
up
be
and see.
interesting to see what did that decision what was the actual
Mm-hmm.
meat that came out of that? What can we now do or not do
Yeah.
in elections based upon that decision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good
Well,
question.
And Gore, I mean, he can. I mean, basically, when they came out and said it, he said, "I'll go along with it." I mean, he didn't.
bear, pig.
Right. Well, he didn't. Can you imagine Donald Trump coming out and saying, "Oh, all right, I'm gonna, I'm going to stand by what the court said.
I do
Mr. Litigator.
I do worry about a transition. Like, I feel like everything is being primed to throw down.
Oh, for sure.
On this election.
That's why he's so gung ho to dump another. He thinks that, if he dumps another person in there, he's got 3 votes. Which I hope not. I hope that they would honor that constitutional duty. But
Well, yeah. I mean,
there again, you come back to
it's sort of. I think the safety net here is mutually assured destruction. If things degenerate to the point where it's nobody has any faith in the sanctity of the election anymore, and you've got people that are, okay, we've got a dictator now that won't turn over power here, or vice versa, or we feel like the election has been stolen or something like that. Well, there really isn't an outcome other than either somebody takes it on the chin or we have a civil war.
Right.
So,
well, and here's my question then, though, too, because if there is no inaugurated president by inauguration day, isn't it hello, Madam President Pelosi?
Yeah. There's a lot of mechanisms that have to fall into place there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my understanding is but then it kind of, if I remember right, it hoses there was some other, because I read about that. Yeah. The
vice president would be the Senate pro tem.
Which is Grassley, right. There was some other mechanism in there that she didn't want that to happen, because then Congress actually votes to elect the president, is my understanding. At that point, she would be the interim president, but I think then Congress has to decide who the president is, and what kind of show that's going to be. And it starts with S and ends with T.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So
I mean, that's disaster written all over it.
Right. Well, I mean,
that's a constitutional crisis.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, and if it's that crazy, then I think we could bank on who, if you've got multiple people making claims to being in charge at the same time, then it's whoever has the guns gets to call the shots.
And right. And who does the military go with?
Right. Yeah. So,
I don't know.
Hold on to your butt. Glad I've got a basement.
That's right. We got
full of guns and food.
We got the bunker in Northwest Iowa. Project Ion's going to be casting through it.
Yeah. You know it.
I got the medicine.
Perfect.
I'll bring the antibiotics and.
Well, yeah, David and I have talked numerous times. We're just going to start our own society out here at Ridge Road. We got a bunch of nurses and pharmacists, and we got a couple of lawyers, and
you got a doctor.
Got a doctor. Yeah. So we're set.
Got an MP.
We're set. Yeah. Right.
You just have to kick the BFs of the world out of your
your favorite neighbor.
Well,
the freeloaders out.
I will. We'll draft a new neighborhood constitution that allows for,
I feel like Andy Hamilton has to be involved.
Oh
in this.
yeah. Well, naturally. We'll get him on the advisory council. Well, yeah.
Resurrect the charter.
If we stay true to micronation form, though, we'll need way more people.
Way more.
To actually run the government that we create.
That's right.
Then we'll need like exponentially.
Well, you guys could annex Sherwood Forest.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna have to.
Yeah, but what are you gaining out of that? I don't know. I mean, you can. At that point, you can only burn money for heat. And that's about what Sherwood Forest has, that way. They got some money, but they're not a lot of, they're not a lot else you're gaining over there, in my opinion.
Fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was really just sort of a buffer zone in between my new hunting ground over in Fort Defiance.
Right. Yeah.
Where I'll go shoot food.
That's right. Live off the land.
I can attest though personally that I guess Harson's haven't done it for a while, but Greg's, when they stopped farming that piece behind Dave's there, that's really really cut down on the old deer traffic.
Oh, I suppose.
Probably.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate because I had a pretty good thing going over there.
Yeah.
But
Were you getting like bucks and stuff to come into the ravine there behind your folks, or where were you exactly?
Oh yeah, there still was, but nothing like. I mean, so when I was in, we were in high school, it was like a highway. But then there was somebody that was hunting
Oh, whoa.
Carla's, and that kind of messed that up. And then
stepped out from behind the podium.
Mhm.
Oh, it's over.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, we missed the debate. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I saw him step out from behind the podium, and Melania came up, and now
Okay.
Yeah.
Jill's hugging Joe, and
Well, so yeah, maybe sorry to divert from the hunting because I'm
Yeah, it's
actually
all right.
interested in that as opposed to this debate stuff. But so how do we think that things? Let's make a quick prediction about what the commentary is going to be.
exactly. I mean, 100% down party
Down
lines.
part.
right, yeah.
It swayed
Fox is
zero
gonna be with
people.
Donald. Donald won.
The media
hands
is
down.
gonna go crazy because they each said something batshit,
Right.
and whatever
I
media
didn't-
you
did you-
watch. I
did
might
you guys
fire up
hear-
OAN.
Did you guys hear anything nutty though? I mean, I kind of had it on low volume here,
Yeah.
Oh,
and I didn't see anything like, I didn't see anything wild. I mean,
No,
I
they were
was
just
hoping-
bickering like
yeah,
petulant
Couple
children,
old
and then
men,
Chris
yeah.
Wallace a couple times. I saw he got kind of loud with them.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess it was fairly, it seemed kind of predictable-ish.
Predictable.
Yeah, 'cause, I expect the Trump is Trump. He's going to do his thing, and I guess I wasn't sure how Biden was going to
React to that.
do it. Yeah, I mean, was he going to show up feisty, or was he going to be respectful Joe? And I don't know. It sounds to me like he kind of straddled the fence. It seemed like he sort of took a step back at times and was just kind of let Trump kind of bring attention, good or bad, on himself. And then at other times it seemed like he was sort of in the weeds with him. So, yeah. How about you, Cole? Anything especially stand out to you?
I enjoyed the Biden called him the worst president in the history of the country. I mean, let's be honest, I loved it.
Preaching to the choir, huh?
Oh yeah. Chris Christie's on now. I'm sure he's saying something spectacular. Probably about how bridges don't close by themselves or something.
Man, Donald Trump might have called me fat.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love him. I love him anyway.
Right. Yeah,
Give me my bacon.
Chris Christie came to Drake, I remember, when I was in law school. And I walked by him in the hall. He's as wide as he is tall.
He is. He
Like,
is.
no joke. Yeah.
Just dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
right.
dun,
The-
dun, dun.
Hear the tuba music just
Yeah.
appear.
Dude, my favorite though is Cruz like buttering up to Trump. I
Oh,
love that.
I know.
That little crumb lip, like
He is such
this
a
guy called my wife a
sleazeball.
horse face.
Right. And my father killed JFK.
And my father was probably
Yeah.
there. I don't know. A lot of
Yeah.
people are saying it, but
Yeah. I don't know, but a lot of people are saying it. That's just exactly like quotations involved there.
it
I mean,
just
and
makes me so fun. It's so funny.
So, Cole, I asked Spurge this one time, but is Ted Cruz with a beard more palatable to you than Ted Cruz without a beard?
He looks less Zodiac killer.
He still gives me the creepy vibe.
Okay.
And I'm a 6'3" dude. So I mean, take that any way you want.
See, I've been operating under the theory that beard Ted Cruz is substantially more palatable than non-beard Ted Cruz. And in addition to, the beard, he's kind of going gray now, or, maybe he quit dyeing his
Right.
hair or whatever. So he's got sort of a salt and pepper air
It-
of distinction about him.
If you look at, he almost lost to Beto O'Rourke. And Beto had come out and said that he was going to take their guns away.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's stunning to me
clearly
in
in
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah.
yeah. The dumbest thing I've ever heard a politician do. Tell people of Texas, I'm going to take your guns.
Right.
Hell
I
yes,
mean,
we're gonna take.
So
your
you can just
gun.
tell Ted Cruz really, the beard wasn't a factor.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
It's his general, kind of like Jay Leno, you know? He just.
Don't say that to
He's looking-
T2. He loves Leno.
T2's a Leno guy. Come
So
on.
back when we were in college, we had the TV schedule, and so we literally blocked out, like had a block schedule and had all the TV that we were gonna watch planned
So it was
out for the
like-
week. Yeah, so we get our homework done, and we're like, okay, I'm free from 6 till 10. I can watch this, that, or the other thing. Tony comes along and puts in the news, Leno, and then Cheers reruns. And that's how we finished every evening from about
love him.
10 p.m. to midnight or whatever it was.
T2's my favorite. I wonder what we really should be asking ourselves is how his battle versus the Wichita Eagle has gone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No
I
kidding.
haven't
That
talked
makes,
to him about it in a while.
that makes the Trump-Biden thing look like child's play.
His grandma, by the way, sent me a plant the other day.
Oh,
She's-
really?
Oh yeah, she's just
For the
so
pharmacy?
cool.
She is.
Yeah, to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
She's just the coolest lady. Big Meg Honda fan right here.
Oh, yeah. She's something special. Gotta love May.
That was pre. That was pre. Geez, now it's escaping me. I binge watched it. I missed out on it. Oh, dear God. The sitcom of Sheldon. Why is it
Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory? Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like that. I mean, that kind of epitomizes the Big Bang Theory. You certain nights you eat certain food and
Oh,
you
yeah.
watch certain things and
Oh, yeah. This was way pre-Big Bang Theory.
yeah,
I
But I
think
mean,
they
that's
stole.
kinda-
Yeah, they stole the
Yeah.
idea from us.
yeah,
That's my spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's my spot. Yep.
Except the one thing we didn't have was a hot neighbor that somebody got to date. That totally didn't happen. But oh well.
Hot bimbo.
Yeah, right. But
Oh.
anyways, good
Freaking
times.
Hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock. Do we have any final comments or points of order before we sign off, or what do you think?
Nothing changed. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see the. I can't wait to just keep refreshing all the news sources.
Yeah.
And seeing how people go ahead and try to spin this as a win for either. I mean,
While my Facebook is blown up.
oh yeah, same. No, it's gonna be a fun night to creep Facebook and.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything, but
Oh bullshit, Cole.
no. I'm
Cole got
not.
into it the other night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a little drama in the LBC over there. And
Not good.
Cole. And then he texted me and he goes, Spurge, keeping your political views pretty close to the chest. It reminds me of my folks when they own their business. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm not going to not let somebody give me their business because...
Yeah, right.
Well, in this universe, are you smart to let your nuts hang on that subject?
No.
I mean, seriously.
You weren't. My parents never did.
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah.
absolutely
that's what.
cannot.
And especially now, I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a good
it's
thing
way
that
worse.
most of your patients can't or don't know about Project Ion. Probably Spurge.
I don't know. We are blowing up the channels.
Yeah.
But, shooting up the charts. But no, it's so funny though because I got some that know. Like I had a guy in, he had a Trump 2020 hat on, and
The good ones don't care.
I was
mean,
helping him pick out some, allergy meds or something like that. And another guy came in. First one I've seen, the Lincoln Project hats.
Oh, really?
Which is the Republicans that hate Trump, essentially, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he had one of those on, and he walks up behind the Trump guy so that only I could see him. He points at it, points at the guy, and just starts laughing. So
That is good.
It is funny. And
Yeah.
to Jimmy's point, I am essentially, there's a few issues, but my single issue is healthcare. And I
Right.
feel like the Republicans have failed to come up with any viable alternative
Right.
in
They've
12
had a-
years. And
Yeah.
and
They've
and
had a
so
light year.
I can't
of
vote
time.
for that.
Yeah.
I don't like the ACA. I think it's incredibly flawed and a hand job to the insurance companies. But, it's what we have right now. And so I guess we try to improve it until we can pass a single payer Medicare for all health insurance.
Right. And
Which
and
is
just the-
hilarious because so when we were seeking funding for our health insurance, for our pharmacy, we were getting our investors lined up, stuff like that. And one of the investors asked my partner, Josh, who's a conservative guy, he goes, what if Bernie gets in and we get this socialized healthcare crap? He said, I'd love it. It would take a
Right.
lot of the stress out of my job and allow me to actually practice as a pharmacist rather than playing these ridiculous games with PBMs
CMS
and
games,
insurance
yeah.
companies and all that shit. And then there's no difference between me and Walgreens.
Right. You get paid your reimbursement is the exact same.
Correct.
There's no negotiating.
And Walgreens goes out of
because-
business because I
Right.
kill them on customer service every time.
Right. Because they suck.
And actually, speaking of the Supreme Court, I will put in a shameless plug for oral arguments beginning 10-6. There's a case that I actually care deeply about. The state of Arkansas versus a PBM group regarding pharmacy benefit management transparency. And it could be a complete game changer for the world of pharmacy. So stay tuned.
Okay. Interesting.
And I do think they're actually scared because they're dumping a lot of money into certain states. The
You mean-
PBMs,
okay.
the pharmacy benefit manager. So it's essentially separate companies from the insurance company that get
The
between
middlemen.
Okay.
Yeah, they sit
The
there and
middlemen
take
of the
20%.
middlemen, right? Yeah.
They do nothing. They take 20%.
The middlemen.
Dude, I want it. I gotta find myself either a scheme or a middleman gig.
Maybe this is a good time that nobody's watching anyway, so what the hell? Let's bring Cole into the scam bubble here
Yeah.
a little bit because maybe he can. Spurge and I have been scheming.
We just want a scam.
We
man.
want a scam
Like,
so
we
bad.
We want to
But-
make just a butt ton of money and do nothing.
Yeah, what we need is a fall guy.
But we need a fall guy. Our typical fall guy is Kyle.
Yeah, usually it's
Because
Kyle.
he's a good public face. And he also has access at SCOO.
Yeah, Kyle's got the sterling reputation.
Influential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if Kyle puts his stamp of approval on it, all the little old ladies out there are gonna go, "Oh, Kyle, he's such a nice boy out there."
Exactly. So we got scams for computer parts.
Computer parts.
We got
yeah, but-
T-shirt
yeah.
scams.
T-shirts.
We got
yeah.
the my favorite one recently has been the middle school and elementary school fundraiser scam.
Oh yeah.
So you get the kids to sell all your crappy stuff for a fundraiser. You kick 10% to the school.
Take
and
the rest.
Take the rest. Cash money. Cash money
Man,
millionaire.
you guys are way behind. I've been thinking about for years.
Yes. We got another one.
I knew this would. Yeah, I knew we'd be speaking your language here, Cole.
Yeah, I have been thinking about years some kind of crappy medical device that I can be like, tell Tony Condon, hey, that we can make a ton of money on this. Here's the idea. You should build this, and we'll jack the price up 50 times what it's actually worth because it's a medical device.
That's right.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to work well. It just has to can be made in China. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah,
As
dude.
long as it's a medical device and it's approved by the FDA, who we can bribe,
Exactly.
we're good. We're good
Oh,
to
that
go.
sounds excellent.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that idea.
Yeah. I'm in. I'll write. I can write reports. I can do studies.
Yeah,
I did a fellowship.
I mean, that's
Just
That's-
make up your own evidence for why it's a
Yeah.
good deal, and then
dude, I
oh,
can make
man, that-
stats say anything.
that's what they do. I mean, I literally which is a really good product. Someone's made a ton of money off of it. I literally have a blanket that has 6. It's 6. 6, basically what there is hand warmers. And it's in a package. And so you open the package up and you shake it 4 or 5 times to get the beads, kind of opened up.
Yep.
But literally, I mean, it's like the size of a large hand warmer,
Okay.
like those supersized hand warmers, and there's 5 of them. Someone took that, put it inside of a medical paper of some sort, packaging, and I'm sure they're $150 a piece.
Yeah.
Probably cost them 20 cents.
Yeah. Out of China.
Yeah.
Is the idea
genius.
is it supposed to be like an emergency blanket or something? You shake it up, or
it's basically it's using a chemical, like a hand worm is just a chemical reaction.
Yeah, to give off heat. Okay.
And so and you put that, you don't put it right against the patient, but a blanket, then the hand warmer thing, and then another blanket, and basically it works great. I mean, it
warm you up quick.
Well, it's not so much as quick, but just like old people love them.
Oh, okay.
I get so many shout outs from some of the older population that their hypothalamus just isn't working as well anymore, and I give them one of those things, and man, they just rave.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So we had
just something small.
one of my investors. Well, he tried this, but he made it all in America. Problem 1.
Yeah.
Problem 2 is it's kind of ugly. But the idea was essentially it's like a pop socket that doesn't pop, but it's a pill case. So you have your phone on you at all times. You got to eat. Oh, I got to take my lunch meds. Oh, there they go. It's stuck to my phone. And he wants to sell them for $9 each. They won't sell. They're all made in America, so that's cool, I guess. But
right,
people say they give a shit about that. People don't give a shit about that.
They just don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about that. My vials are all made in America. They're not more expensive than the cheap. They're a little more expensive than the cheap Chinese shit, but
not enough to count.
No,
Yeah.
not enough to matter. But they're biodegradable.
Oh, well, good.
Really?
2 years, my vials. 2 years in a landfill, they're completely gone.
Good for you. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
Methane activated.
Yeah.
Guess who?
Really?
Scott Lilland is my vial guy.
Is he really?
Yeah, he sells pharmacy vials only to independent stores now. And so, speaking of which, I gotta order more vials tomorrow.
Okay. All righty. Well,
This was fun.
This was fun. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for being on, Cole. Appreciate it. I hope it was enjoyable for you too.
Yeah. Anytime. I always have a good time.
All right. Very good. Well, yeah, we'll see what kind of views we get, but oh well, we're doing it for the love, right?
Yeah,
Right.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. Well,
That fat Spotify contract.
yeah,
Surely
someday.
coming our way.
Someday.
We can build it.
All right. We'll see you later, Cole.
All right.
See you, buddy.
See you guys.